Last time on Xuan.
I would define wellness as a state of mind and a state of the body in being balanced.
Hey, what's up? My name is Xuan.
Hi, this is Angie.
And welcome back to the Xuan podcast. We are right smack right in the middle of our podcast. We've done this is like our 5th episode, right? And we've got 5 more to go. So yeah, how far we've come.
Great. This is a production by Brahm Centre, a charity in Singapore promoting happy and healthy living. Today, we're going to talk about social media. So it's my turn now to ask you, Xuan, being a young person, what is your relationship with social media?
Okay, I speak for many young people today, okay? I'm very attached to my phone. I am very attached to the apps on my phone, right? So, I've got Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. And if you were to look at the screen time on my phone, I'm just going to show you now. Oh my goodness, It's going to shock you.
Why are you so stuck with this social media? It's almost like a drug that you can't let go of.
Yeah, it's like they have this druggy property, these social media apps. I believe the developers, when they first designed these apps, they have that in mind, right? And that's how they make money, right?
Yeah.
They want to hook you onto it. And for me personally, it's that FOMO, that fear of missing out. We want to keep up with what our friends are doing. We want to keep up with what the world is doing. We want to keep up with the latest trends. So it's something that, if let's say I'm not on Instagram for a week, for example, I don't know the world around me.
So what are you really fearful of in terms of missing out? What do you think you're missing out on?
I feel like I'm missing out on, what's going on around me, right? The world, what's been going on in my friends' lives. Because apart from social media, social media is like one of the avenues, right? One of the avenues today that, I get to know more about my friends. Because, without social media, if I'm not seeing my friend in person, I don't really know what's going on in that person's life.
Why is that important?
I guess it's part of, in the past when you didn't have Instagram, when you didn't have Facebook and all this, how do you keep up with your friends?
I was focusing more on what I was going to do with my life and how I was going to spend my time and do the things I enjoy. I wasn't caught up with what my friends were doing. Great, whatever they're doing, they're enjoying it. Fantastic. I'm more concerned about how I was going to spend my time on things that, it's going to be stimulating and it's going to be uplifting and discovering new things that I can do.
But did you not feel like, you want to keep up with the trends, with the latest trends, what's new in fashion, what's trending in terms of food, all the things that, let's say my friends will be checking out the latest cafes and they recommend it.
Yeah.
Were you not as, concerned about all these when you were younger in the past?
Remember, you said I'm unconventional, and I guess I was unconventional even then. And now, when I look at social media, it's more for the purpose of how I can serve the community with the postings that I can put up there that's going to provoke people's thinking, how they can look at things perhaps from a slightly different perspective.
Yeah.
And some of the messages that could possibly uplift them. So I rarely scroll to see what everybody else is doing because I just trust that they're enjoying their time.
Yeah.
Some of them may be traveling. If I happen to see a photo, I say, oh, right, my friend is in New Zealand. Good for him. But it doesn't make me feel like, hey, what about me? How come I'm not in New Zealand and I'm still stuck in Singapore?
Yeah.
So it's really important for us to be focusing on what is it that we are doing in terms of the way we're living our life, not worry about what other people are doing and how they're living their lives.
Yeah, so that's actually one of the problems that we're going to be talking about in this episode, that all these negative effects, right, that social media bring about, on humans. And actually, when I was researching this topic, right, I thought to myself, what are some consequences I see, right, that social media has led to, especially my life, right? And I noticed something really funny. I'm not sure if it's something that, you can relate to, but I noticed, let's say I'm having my phone, right, with me. Let's say we're having lunch or something. And then I'll notice I'll feel my phone vibrating.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I check my phone, right, there's no notifications. And I Googled it. They say it's called phantom beeps, which means it's like I imagine that my phone is vibrating even though it isn't.
Yeah, some people even imagine that there was a ping sound and there wasn't one.
Yeah.
So yes,
How
I think,
scary is it?
well, that is the thing about the mind, right? The mind imagines what it wants to.
Yeah.
And the question is, why are we so caught up having to be in touch all the time with the outer world? And sometimes we actually lose touch with what's going on in our inner world.
Yeah.
And it is the inner world that actually defines our experience more than the outer world.
Of course.
Yeah. So when I had COVID, I was down for 2 weeks, which is why there's a delay to this next episode. And I just decided I was going to turn my mobile phone off completely to focus on my recovery by resting my body and my mind. I mean, what does it matter who's doing what when, what I needed was just to...
for your body to recover.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, instead of still trying to connect with people and getting, 20 questions which are saying, how are you doing? How are you feeling? It's like, I'm just going to turn it off so everybody knows that, oh, she's not even online. She must be just resting. And that's exactly what I had to do when my body was not well.
Now, we've called this episode Social Media, a Drug or a Trap. And I think it's so apt. Because, social media can be as addictive as a drug. And just like drugs, we can misuse it, right? To the point that it affects our state, it affects our well-being. Why then are we not as concerned about this issue of social media as compared to, for example, banned drugs?
Well, I was conducting a seminar for parents just yesterday. And I was sharing with the parents that, when you give something to a child, for example, a new game or a new gadget or maybe medication, you would explain how it works.
Yeah.
What are the things to be careful about? What are the boundaries to put around it? And that is something that our parents are not doing when
smartphones.
When smartphones are given to the children. And then later on, the parent starts to put boundaries and then starts to put restriction, and then it frustrates the child.
Yeah.
So really what we need to do is to make sure before we even give this smartphone to a child is for the child to have a clear understanding on what it's supposed to be for and what are the pitfalls and what are things to watch out for and what are the rules around it so that the child is guided. Yeah.
So I think this would be great advice, right, for young people who are about to be parents. If you're, or if you have a young kid at home and you're thinking of, giving them a smartphone. Great advice from Angie. But what about people like me or people like my peers, people in their 20s already who, have been so attached to this smartphone for so long?
Yeah. So how about start off with doing a 1 hour detox?
Easier said than done.
Yeah, but it's not impossible for you to decide that you're going to put aside the phone and focus on perhaps reading or playing a game or doing a project and just not look at your phone for 1 hour. And that might be a good start. And then you start to realize that, hey, actually, I could focus better by not being distracted by my phone. And then you can extend that to an hour and a half and then to 2 hours.
Okay.
So in fact, when we conduct a mindfulness course and there's a 1-day retreat, the people all had to let go their phones for at least 6 hours. And at the end of it, they're so astonished that they could do it. And then they found a new sense of freedom and they relish it.
Of course. Yeah, because you're not attached to something that you have to check constantly.
Yeah.
But okay, so this is on an individual level, right? What we can do for ourselves, right? Setting boundaries, setting time limits. But what about on a bigger scale, right? Why are countries not as concerned about this issue of social media as compared to banned drugs?
Well, at the end of the day, it doesn't make you dysfunctional. It distracts you.
It does, though, if you look at it, because social media can lead to problems like depression, suicide among really young children.
Well, I'm not sure you can blame the social media. I think what we need to do is to focus on what is the content.
Okay.
Yeah, because there are a lot of good content.
Yeah, of course.
The whole encyclopedia of the world is actually on social media today. So the whole Wikipedia, for example. So we can't say we throw the baby out with the bathwater. So we need to be discerning as to what is it that we're reading or what are we browsing and how does our mind feel or how our body feels. So to really tune in, because if what we are seeing or reading or browsing is uplifting, nourishing, then actually our body feels relaxed or even energized.
Very important.
Yeah, but when you are reading something that it makes you feel sad or makes you feel even down, then the body's really telling you, stop. Yeah. And that's when you listen to your body is actually communicating to you.
And that's why all youths should listen to this podcast, because youths, including me, we're very, whatever we see online, right? We're very influenced, right? We buy into a lot of things very easily. So if we see, let's say, for example, radicalized content, we have to be able to discern that.
Yeah, you probably feel angered.
Yeah.
You feel a sense of resentment, even to the point of hatred.
Yeah.
And the anger comes up, that your body is really feeling hot.
Right.
Your muscles are really tensing up. That is a warning to you, like, hey, do you want to carry on with this? Is it going to be good for your health? Yeah. And to be able to say, I'm going to let it go because it is not helpful. It's not helping with my health.
Okay. We know how drugs are addictive, right? Drugs are bad for you. They're illegal. Nicotine is also addictive, right? And it's also illegal and bad for... Well, it's not illegal, but there are, age limits over cigarettes. And they're bad for you. But social media, they're addictive. We can argue whether it's bad for you or not. But how do you think we can control that?
So this is where awareness comes in.
Yeah.
When you have the awareness and you are sensitive to, wow, this thing is no longer good for me. In fact, it's making me feel dependent.
Okay.
It's making me feel withdrawn. That sensing, the ability to know is what alerts you to time to let go. So even caffeine can be addictive.
Yeah.
But when you drink to the extent that it makes you nervous or to the point that if you don't drink, you're going to feel a wreck, then you are addicted to the caffeine.
And that's where awareness must come in.
Yes, and the awareness is going to help you to switch out of the habit. And if you don't have the awareness, then you're sucked into it.
And that's where it gets dangerous.
It's like being addicted to a person that is not good for you. So even though you're in a relationship, you're arguing, you're fighting, you're always causing each other to be upset, and still you are not willing to walk away from each other. That is also a form of addiction that's actually bad for you.
Speaking about addiction, I was watching this really good Netflix film over the weekend. It's called The Social Dilemma, right? You can go and check it out on Netflix. And they talk about how social media is all a business model, right? They're just trying to keep people as engaged on the screen for as long as possible, right? Literally addict you lah. How do we control then?
So the way they have built it is that they have this likes, right?
Yeah.
And then you can actually see how many people have read your article. And that is what results in you going in to check to see whether, wow, are you getting the likes?
Yeah.
Because it creates this dopamine effect. Like,
correct.
Hey, people are actually watching or listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
So it is a good indication as to what you're posting, whether it's relevant, as opposed to getting addicted to the likes. Rather than, we're just targeting on how many likes because we just feel so shocked. And then it feeds the ego. Then we are no longer doing something to serve others. We're doing something to serve the ego.
Right.
So the social media is designed to serve your ego.
Okay.
So you're not aware of that, then you get sucked into it because that's how the dopamine effect works, to make you feel shock.
Wow.
Good.
That's a discovery for me. So it's not. So if we change our perspective, instead of focusing on the ego, we focus on serving others based on, or rather by the content that we're putting out, then the whole attachment that we have with social media, that will change as well?
Yeah, because your perspective changes, your relationship changes. Yeah, it's like when you hang out with someone, is your perspective, I want to get this person because he's good for me.
Yeah.
Rather than, hey, I'm going to hang out with this person because I think we make a good couple and this partnership is actually invigorating for both of us.
Yeah.
Instead of, it's just about me, serving my interests. Yeah.
And speaking about dopamine, right, you were talking about earlier, when we're stressed, we turn to something for dopamine, right, to get that high, right? Whether it's, for some people, it's cigarettes, for some people, it's alcohol, even drugs for some youths. The rest of us, we turn to social media, right? And instead of turning to a person now, we turn to our phones. And it's dangerous because legally, there's nothing wrong with that, right? As compared to drugs or cigarettes or alcohol or whatever. And I've been researching, and some of the news articles that came about was that our suicide rates for teens aged 10 to 19 is actually rising year on year. Do you think there's a correlation?
I can't say that there's a direct correlation, but there are times when you're looking at the social media postings and you feel that is something that could be you, and then you aspire.
Yeah.
Well, it'd be great if that is causing you to be inspired and that you want to work towards it. But if it brings up the emotion of jealousy, or the emotion of, I'm just not good enough, I can never be like that, then it brings about an emotion that's very negative.
Yeah.
But having said that, it also depends on the environment that you're growing up in. If you have family members who are your cheerleaders and very encouraging to whatever you want to try out, that actually changes the entire dimension.
Right. Okay.
Then you're not going to social media to seek validation. Right? You're going to social media just to be keeping in touch with what's going on, to feel inspired by certain people. And that's great. So what's really important is that we have an environment that we grow up in that is positive, that is helping us to, feel nurtured and supported.
Now, closer to home, I'm sure many of our young listeners tuning in will know of this man, YouTuber, former radio DJ, Dikosh. Right. Very recently, he got charged and he pleaded guilty, right, to, a couple of sexual offenses, right, involving two teenage underage boys. And I think what social media has sort of empowered him to do is that it's allowed him to use his status, right, as a celebrity and his fame to exploit young men. How then can we prevent such things from happening, right? How can we prevent people like him from, taking advantage of younger people on social media?
Well, first of all, people preying on unsuspecting young people or older people, it's not new to what goes on in the society.
Yeah.
The difference here is that because this individual is a homosexual, and is preying on young boys. Usually, we would be warning young girls to be careful not to be preyed on by men.
Yeah.
But do we talk about it to boys, not to fall prey to people in wanting to take advantage of them?
Okay, I've never been taught that lah.
Exactly.
Right, in school and all that, yeah.
Yeah, because we have not legalized homosexuality in its true sense. And parents are in denial that their children could be homosexual, bisexual, and pretending that this is not going to be happening to their own children doesn't help them to warn their kids of what kind of predators could be out there and what are the traps that they could be falling into.
Okay.
So without these pre-warnings, then these young people could be very susceptible to become victimized because they are also trying to discover their sexuality.
Yeah.
And then they find that, there's someone who is interested in them and they can't see the danger signs. So they end up being entrapped.
In this case, it's a celebrity and he's very, very well known. He has thousands and thousands of followers on social media. And for many young people, including myself, we would think that someone like that would be able to be trusted, right?
Exactly.
Given his profile, given his image.
So you remember this guy called Bill Cosby?
Mm-hmm.
He was like the father of America.
Yeah.
And he used his fame to exploit so many young women because they trusted him. He had such a pure image on screen. They never expected to be drugged or to be taken advantage of or to be touched inappropriately when they meet him.
So it really goes to show how social media, you don't really know the person, right? You don't, it's just a facade.
Yeah, it's like a famous person. You don't really know the person except what is being projected by the media. So there's no difference. And now we are in a situation where people become impressed. They become carried away by somebody's fame.
Yeah. And I think that's what happened in this case, whereby some of the victims, they were very, they knew who he was and they didn't dare to mess with him.
Exactly. So this happens even in organizations, right? Big bosses could be taking advantage of their young recruits. I mean, this is something that had been happening, and the Me Too movement had helped to flush some of these out and also kind of warn some of these people in places of authority to not try it anymore because it's not as safe for them anymore to be exploiting
and get away with
victims.
it, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Then for us young people, what can we do about all this going on?
So talk to your friends about it, make it known what's going on so that you can do fact check.
Yeah.
And if there is something in you that feels uncomfortable, that is already a warning.
Red flag, yeah.
Yeah, it's because sometimes the body actually feels like, something is not right. Or suddenly you have doubts in your mind. These are your inner conscience that is actually warning you.
So trust your gut more than your brain.
Exactly. Because your mind can always justify something or rationalize something.
Yeah.
But your gut kind of like gives you a warning that's very instinctive.
Okay, before we go, we like to do this at the end of every show. We wrap up our episode topic, or rather we wrap up our episode by poking fun at our episode topic. And since today, we're talking about social media, technology, let's try this, Angie. Firstly, do you drive a Korean car?
No, I don't drive a Korean car.
Okay, never mind. But I'm gonna ask you anyway. What happens when you crash your new Kia?
If I have a new Kia,
Yeah.
I have no clue.
You end up with Nokia.
Oh my gosh, that's so lame.
Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Of course, Xuan, it is a production by Brahm Centre Singapore. Don't forget to follow them on their socials at Brahm Centre Singapore on Facebook and at Brahm Centre SG on Instagram. Next week, we talk all about stress and anxiety, how COVID has worsened our mental health, and how maybe, stress will not actually harm your body, right? Join us next week.